Hello there, and thanks for joining me once again at my tying bench. And this time around I'm going to tell you a nymph pattern. It's an old classic nymph pattern. It's been around a long time, but I just like to put a little twist on it when I tie it up. Instead of using the everything's pretty much the same except for the body. Instead of using the regular herl, I use some peacock ice stub instead, just to give it a little flash and more attractant. And I thought you might like to see this one tied up, and anybody that's just starting out tying might like to switch it up when they try this pattern. So I'll get this fly of the vise here, we'll get a fresh hook in, and I'll get started for you. The hook I'm using on this guy is a size 10 3906B mustad wet fly nymph hook, and I'll tying on the 10 for the video, the bigger size here. So we'll get that locked in. Now this guy is weighted, so I have some 0.15 lead wire here, so we're going to put about 10 wraps or so, and keep that about centered in the shank when you wrap it on. And we'll just wrap that towards the eye first, snip off that end. Then we'll take 2 or 3 turns back the other way and wiggle that end off. So there we go, that's pretty much centered there in the shank. Pretty close. Okay, now we'll take some Danville 6/0 black I'm using for thread, or you could use any black thread that you normally use, would work. UTC and whatnot. So we'll start in front of the lead here. Make a little dam first here with our thread, then I'm going to jump on top, catch my thread on top, then work back. Do the same thing at the back. We're going to build a little dam. I'll snip that tag in off of the way here. Then jump up on your lead again towards the eye and back down. Do that about 2 times usually. I will, just to make that lead so it's locked in there good. Then work our thread back towards the barb here. Okay, that's fine. Now, as you might know, is if you tied it before, of course, the tail is a peacock sword. So I usually grab 4 to 5 strands here of that for the tail. Pull that off. Alrighty, we'll tie that in here. Actually, I think I want a little thicker tail than that, so I'm going to grab a few more this time when I pull them off. Alright, that's fine. Alrighty, so we'll tie this in here. The length of your gap of the hook there, like always, and tie it in with a pinch wrap. Nice and secure, like so. Wrap towards the lid, then I'll hold up on that tail, and I want to come back so it's pretty much centered above the barb. There's where I want it. Alright, then we'll wrap forward, snip off our excess there right behind the lid. Okay, a couple more wraps. Now the rib is some silver oval tinsel in the small size, and I have some uni oval tinsel here in silver. Go with a 4 or 5 inch piece here. That'll give you lots for your rib, and we'll tie that in. Catch it in right below the shank here is where I like to wrap mine on the bottom. If I catch it in there, it seems is the best bet, I find. So then we'll wrap back towards our tail, and then wrap tight. Several wraps, secure our rib in. Check the positioning, that looks good. I'll lock it in the material clip. Alright, now we're going to make a dubbing loop, so we'll just take our finger here like always, and you need a fairly long loop this time to cover the whole body is what you want. And a couple wraps around the base of that to lock it in. And we'll come right back to in front of our tail. So our first wrap's right there in front. Then we'll wrap forward, stop our thread where we started there. That gives us lots of room for our hackle and wing and whatnot. Okay, so I'm going to take some dubbing wax here, some super tacky dubbing wax, and because that ice dub is hard to control in a loop, and it's hard to dub as well, but even putting in a dubbing loop can be tricky. Okay, and I have some here, some of the peacock ice dub. We're going to stick that in the loop. Try to get that situated where we want it. And occasionally you may have to add a little more. If you just try to judge it as best as you can for the amount you need. Okay, I'll grab my little dubbing twister tool here and hook on the bottom of that. Alright, so I'm going to pinch the bottom of the loop and then spin my dubbing twister, then release. Let that cord up. do that about 3 times or so, 3 or 4 times. Give it another spin, and I think I'll give it one more this time. Alrighty. Now, instead of wrapping with my dubbing twister, what I'm going to do is hook on with my hackle pliers here, and right at the bottom of the loop, and then I'm just going to trim that thread and cut that dubbing twister off. And any long fibers here I don't want in that loop, I'm just going to pull them out before I wrap. And we can do that after the fact, after we get the body wrapped. Okay, so let's begin to wrap our body here. We'll go right in front of our tail here. It's going to look pretty shaggy and buggy, but that's not a bad thing. So we're going to wrap forward. Sort of gets a little fatter towards the front here as you jump on top of the lid. Just like so. I'll pull those extra fibers back. See, as you can see, I have a little too much this time, but that's okay. Once I make one more wrap on this guy, then I'm going to just take your fingers and pull those extra fibers out. Make it much easier to tie off. So then I'll come up, a couple wraps here, secure that down to hold it in place before I lock it down. Release my pliers. Now I'm going to take several snug wraps to lock that in there. Snip off the excess. Now what you do, and what I do anyway, is take my fingers and just pluck all these super long guys out of here. It's still going to be buggy, I just don't want the real long guys in there before we wrap our rib, because we want that rib to show. You can even take your scissors if you wish, like so, and trim it a little bit. Just trim it a little here and there. Now we'll take our rib and we're going to counter wrap. I usually get 4 to 5 wraps on the size 10 hook here. Okay, and we'll come up, tie off our tinsel, a couple wraps around, hold it in place nice and secure, keep tension on your thread. A couple more wraps and I'll fold it back and lock that in place. Snip off the excess here. Yeah, I just got a few more fibers sticking out here that I want to trim. I don't want to trim them all out because I want it to be a little bit buggy, of course. And one little bunch right there I don't like. There we go. Okay, that looks fine. So there's the body on our zug bug. Now we're going to take, I have a hen hackle here, a brown hen hackle. The fiber stroke bag, the tip there, we're going to tie it in by the tip right here. So we'll take that tip and place it right on top here. Just trim a few fibers out the way. There we go. Tie that right on top, behind the eye, fold it back, wrap back on it like so. Then I'll reach in, give it a little pull, a couple more wraps back, then I'll make one wrap behind that to prop the hackle up. Then rest my thread right behind the eye. Next I'll grab my little pliers here once I find them. There they are. Little plunger pliers I find are the best for these soft hackles. But whatever pliers you have will do the trick too, just as long as they have a good grip on them. Okay, we'll begin to wrap that forward. Stroke the fibers back as we go. And it's just about 3 or 4 wraps is what you'll get here. Bring the stem up, tie this guy off. A couple wraps to hold them in place. Keep tension on the thread there. Now what we'll do is just pinch everything in your fingers and fold it back, and then wrap back with your thread up onto that stem. Reach in and grab it or snip it off if you wish. Give it a little pull and that'll come out. Alright, I'm just going to work those fibers down and back with the hackle. Wrap back to where I want to place my wing case on the top there, or mallard flank feather. That looks good right there. Now I have a mallard flank feather here, and just what I like to use is ones that, if you have a bag of ones that you may not find any other use for, they're not good for dry fly wings or whatnot, I just use these. So now we'll tie that in right on top here. Keep your thumb on it there and keep it placed straight down on the center of the hook shank. wrap forward a few wraps just to hold it in place first. And I'm going to pull on that and just hold it up and trim that about 1/4 of the way down or so. I'll probably have to trim that again, but I'll get that once I'm done with the stem here. Alright, so we'll take that stem and make a couple more wraps. And I like to fold back on my stems and wrap back over them once again. That way you're pretty 100% sure that's not going to pull out that way if you do that. Lock it in place. Alrighty, so now we'll just finish building the head here. Just a few more wraps. There we go, that looks pretty good right there. Now I'm going to trim that wingcase on the top there a little bit more. It's just a tad bit too long here. I'll trim it just a bit more. Just like so. And I also like to cut off the corners just to make it more of a rounded shape, more or less here. Just trim off that corner on this side without cutting my hackles. Just like so. Okay. You know, like I was saying, this is the largest I would tie this sug bug down to, like a, you can tie it down to a 16 hook. Alright. So that's pretty much it for that, folks. Now we just gotta do a whip finish and he's a done deal here. Alrighty, so grab my whip finisher. Okay. Let's give that a little counterclockwise spin just to smooth it out a bit. Just like so here. Alright, now I'll do a 4 or 5 turn whip finish on them. Back to front here. That looks fine to me. Okay. Snug it down nice and tight there. And snip off your excess. Cut it or snip it. Okay, folks, there we have it. So the next step I'm going to do here is put a little bit of hit cement on. So grab my hit cement here and give that a little shot. I don't want too much. Sometimes this comes out a little fast. Alrighty, that looks pretty good. Put a little bit on the bottom. It's coming out fairly fast on me this time, so I don't want to get too much on there, or we'll have a mess on our hands. Alrighty, there we go. And I'll just take my little needle here and spread that around a little better than that on the head of the fly. Alright, there she is, folks. Done deal. Could have done a little better job putting the cement on, but that's no big deal. As long as those thread wraps are secure. Okay, so there we have it. Another size 10 ice dub sug bug, peacock ice dub, instead of your regular hurl for the body. Just changed it up a little bit. Never hurts, and sometimes works even better than the original. And I thought you might like to see this one tied up, how I put it together. So, once again, I want to thank you so much for watching. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, and you'd like to see more of these videos in the future, hit that good old subscribe button there and the little bell so you know when I put another fly up. And until next time, I want to wish everyone happy tying like always, and I'll see you again soon. And so long for now, folks.